Greetings, R. Frederick Riddle here with another episode of Christian News and Views. And this is episode 280. You might wonder about the number. That's because we didn't have a recap last week with it being Thanksgiving weekend. I didn't do it, but now we're back on schedule. This is Monday. And the news today coming out is about some optimism from our president. So let me read the article here. U.S. President Donald Trump expressed optimism after a high-level meeting between U.S. officials and a Ukrainian delegation in Miami on Sunday, suggesting there was a good chance of a deal to end Russia's war in Ukraine. Talks were going along, and they're going along well, Trump told reporters aboard Air Force One. Rubio said U.S. officials had been in touch in varying degrees with the Russian side, but we have a pretty good understanding of their views as well. The top U.S. diplomat said the teams were not only working on terms that would end the fighting between Ukraine and Russia, but also terms that set up Ukraine for long-term prosperity. Before the meeting began, Rubio said the goal of the negotiations was to create a pathway forward to leaves Ukraine sovereign, independent, and prosperous. The head of the Ukrainian delegation, Rustem Umerov, said that the meeting was productive and successful, and it built on the success of the previous U.S.-Ukraine talks in Geneva. So, our objective is a prosperous, strong Ukraine, Umerov told reporters. We discussed all the matters that are important for Ukraine, and the U.S. was super supportive. Umerov, head of Ukraine's National Security Defense Council, was appointed to head the Ukrainian team after Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky's powerful chief of staff, Andrei Yermak, resigned on Friday amid a corruption scandal. Putin's aide, Yuri Yushakov, said last week the Kremlin had received the latest version of the plan. This isn't an official one, but we do have the document. We haven't discussed it with anyone yet because the points in it require truly serious analysis and discussion, Yushakov said. After suggesting that he wanted Ukraine to agree to a deal by Thursday of last week, Trump backed away from imposing any kind of deadline. You know what the deadline for me is? When it's over, he said. The negotiations come against a backdrop of persistent Russian missile and drone attacks against cities and infrastructure across Ukraine. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said Sunday that in the last week, Russia had used nearly 1,400 attack drones, 1,100 guided aerial bombs, and 66 missiles in attacks. For its part, Ukraine continues to target Russian energy and defense infrastructure with long-range drones and domestically manufactured missiles. Ukraine also used maritime drones on Friday and Saturday in strikes in the Black Sea against two sanctioned oil tankers used to ship Russian oil. The two tankers, which flew under the Gambian flag, were damaged but not sunk. As the negotiations continue, Ukraine's former military chief staff, Valery Zelensky, who is considered a potential rival to Zelensky, wrote in the Daily Telegraph Sunday that war does not always end with the victory of one side and the defeat of the other. We Ukrainians strive for complete victory, but we cannot reject the option of a long-term end to the war, Zelensky wrote. So, as in the past, this is encouraging news. I'm worried in my opinion now. That said, it must be remembered that Russia, and by that I mean Putin, cannot be trusted. Just cannot be trusted. History teaches us that assuming that a treaty is produced, there is no guarantee that Russia or Putin will submit to it long term. Now, I understand that there are negotiations going on about that to have certain guarantees in place, and different countries have been mentioned, but it seems to be rather in flux, and that might become the main stumbling block in this, because America, from what I can see, we are slowly backing away from the European theater, not leaving it completely over, but we're reducing our footprint and shifting it over to the Pacific, where China dominates and where there's a greater chance of war breaking out, a war that's not just local. It'll start out local, like China attacking Taiwan, but it has the potential of rapidly becoming much bigger. So I understand all that, but here's the truth, for folks: for any kind of a treaty to last, there would need to be an honest, viable, and enabled international force in place to enforce the treaty. Without that, a treaty is only a piece of paper. It's only going to be honored as long as Putin feels fit to honor it. He's not a person you shake your hand with and say, "Oh, we made a gentleman's agreement." He's not a gentleman. He's don't want to go that route. It's just something we can't trust him, folks. And so they need to have, hopefully, they will come to an agreement of different countries. Usually, in a situation like this, it's my understanding that any kind of a guarantee would be you'd want forces that were friendly to Ukraine, forces friendly to Russia, and maybe a neutral party in there as well. So a mix that lessens its effectiveness, but at the same time, it has some checks and balances built into it, because Ukraine is also a place, a country that is in turmoil, so to speak. They have scandals going on. It's a miniature, the way I think of it, it's a miniature view of the United States. We have scandals and all sorts of things going on here in the United States. They have them there too. They may not be as big to us, but theirs is bigger to them than our situation is to them. It's local. It impacts them individually as well as nationally. They are a country striving to not only just succeed, but to survive and to prosper. And so they're going to do things too, and they may push the button. They may cross over that line a little bit. And so we need a strong, viable peacekeeping mission there. Now, maybe it could be made up of neutral parties, 100% neutral. I don't know if that even exists, but the idea would be that they would watch both sides, keep both sides honest. And I don't know, maybe the United States would be involved in that, especially in the intelligence, aerial intelligence, and stuff like that. And so these have to be worked out. How they work them out, I don't know. They haven't really discussed that. It hasn't really filtered into the news media yet as to any real solid plans. There's been different suggested plans, but these usually are dead in the water almost immediately. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. But it is a sense of hope. Now, to shift the attention to the Mideast, the same kind of treaty would not work. They can have a treaty there, and they have one in place now that's sort of working, and that may be the best there is for now. My personal belief is that Israel will not be at real peace or any semblance of real peace until the Antichrist comes on the scene, and that will be after you and I have been raptured. The rapture could take place today. So the Antichrist will come on the scene and make a guaranteed peace treaty with Israel, and he will keep it. It's a 7-year treaty, and he'll keep it for half that. He'll keep it for 3.5 years. And then he will, as I understand the scriptures right, he's going to pollute. A new temple will be built, and he will pollute it. And we'll need to get into details on that right now, but that's something that he's going to do. And when he does it, the scales will fall from the Jewish eyes, and they will see him for what he is. They will also turn to Christ. And that's when the 144,000 Jews go forth in the world. Not Jehovah's Witnesses, not some other cult, but Jews. They'll go throughout the world. Well, most, if not all of them, will eventually be martyred. But they will spread the gospel. And there will be a worldwide revival right there in the midst of all that tribulation. Many people will die. They'll be beheaded. And they will be they're spoken of in Revelation as being in heaven under I think they're under a table or something, but they're waiting for Jesus to go back and to settle the whole issue and then restore them physically, their bodies and so forth. It's not all complicated. It's not complicated either. If you trust the word of God, it makes sense. And if it makes more sense today than it did 100 years ago, and 100 years ago, it made more sense than it did 2,000 years ago. The thing is that the further we get technology-wise, the more we see and understand what the Bible is talking about. Well, that's it for today. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I hope you have a great day today. And I always try to inform you, encourage you, and inspire you. Hopefully, I did something along that line today. And you have a great day. I'll see you in the next episode.